Well, good morning and welcome to our morning devotional on Thursday, May 5th. It is great to be with you. My name is Jeff Huber. I'm lead pastor here at Summit Church in Durango, Colorado. And we gather every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday morning for these devotions. And it's good to do that. Today, we're going to talk about joy that carries us. We started a new series of sermons talking about discovering who we really are and really looking at that through the lens of what the Apostle Paul calls the fruits of the Holy Spirit. The fruits of the Spirit are meant to be ones that are kind of living inside of us, and we allow the Holy Spirit to come in and change us and shape us. I mean, that's the whole idea. The whole idea is this image that we talked this last week about how those fruits of the Spirit are attributes of God, and they're meant to be attributes of us as well, and they're ones that are gifts that are given to us. We can't force them or make them happen. You know, we talked this last week about how sometimes we don't have the patience we need, or we don't have the fruits of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. And we talked about love, joy, and peace, and how sometimes we can't give ourselves peace. We can't find peace. We can't always have the strength to love the way we'd like to love. And so we invite the Holy Spirit to come in and to do that in us. And really today we're going to talk about joy a little bit more deeply. And joy is meant to be something that carries us, even when things are hard, even when things are challenging, knowing that we can't always do it on our own. We invite the Holy Spirit to come in and give us a sense of joy. And it's not about just feeling happy. It's about almost, it really, love, joy, and peace are kind of connected. It's about feeling a sense of wholeness, feeling a sense of being content with what I have and where I'm at. And that sense of joy is meant to carry us. So today, I'm dressed a little bit nicer than I normally am. We have a funeral memorial service for Richard Siegley. Richard is kind of one of those people that helped create our culture here in Durango. He's been in a wheelchair since he was born. Really, he was born 8 weeks early, and he had a lot of different challenges physically, and was sent to Denver for a while for that. And is someone that if you met him, you would think he maybe is just confined to a wheelchair and always needs help. But he actually is someone who was a deep thinker and filled with grace. I would say filled with joy. Even though he had lots of challenges in his life, he always brought a sense of joy. He loved to wear hats, and I have a couple hats I'm going to wear today just to remember him. He loved to wear hats. We're going to celebrate his life by having root beer floats and cupcakes, because that's just who Richard was. And the text that we have before us today, which really is about both joy and love. There's a couple we're going to look at, but one of them is from John 15, and we're going to read from John 14 right before that as part of Richard's service today. This whole section is really about this idea of Jesus wanting to leave something with us. These are his last few days on earth. And so I just invite you to hear these words from John 15 today. I have loved you even as the Father has loved me. Remain in my love. And he's been talking about, by the way, the vine and the branches, and how this joy that carries us and sustains us, by the way, is going to be a joy that lives inside of us, that connects us to God. When you obey my commandments, Jesus goes on, you remain in my love, just as I obey my Father's commandments and remain in his love. I have told you these things so that you will be filled with my joy. Yes, your joy will overflow. And here's where Jesus, once again, he connects joy and love. He says, this is my commandment. Love each other in the same way I have loved you. There's no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. You're my friends if you do what I command. I no longer call you slaves, because a master doesn't confide in his slaves. Now you're my friends, since I've told you everything the Father has told me. You didn't choose me, but I chose you. I appointed you to go and produce this lasting fruit, so that the Father will give you whatever you ask for using my name. This is my command. Love each other. It's interesting. We talked this last week, this love, this word that's used, by the way, in the Greek is agape, which is a love of choice. And Jesus connects that to this idea of joy. That love and joy kind of go hand in hand. When we're willing to choose to do the loving thing, we find a sense of joy, and that we can sit and be okay with that. This is an interesting week for me and for our family. Tomorrow is the anniversary of our son's death on it was 6 years ago. And throughout the last 6 years, we've had lots of ups and downs and challenges. I know that for myself personally, to do Richard's funeral today, and Richard and Thomas knew each other. Actually, one of the places that we used to go and spend time when the kids were little was with Richard and his family. He had an Aunt Susie and a grandmother, Catherine, and I don't know, somehow we just connected with them, and our kids would play at their house, and they had a little tree house. And I just remember these moments we had together. And, I think back as we're doing Richard's service today, as I remember, and it's funny, Richard's columbarium niche is just right across from Thomas's back in our columbarium behind the church. And as I was looking at yesterday, we put those ashes in there with just some of his family in a private time. And as we did that, and I looked over, I saw Thomas, thought, well, it's good they're here together, because we had a lot of experiences together. And even though there was loss and grief, there was also a sense of joy in that moment. A joy of remembering that. And one of the things that's on Richard's plaque, on his memorial plaque there in the columbarium, it says, "Love you bunches." And we'll tell the story today about how Richard used to say that to some of his family members. When they would say "love you," he would say "love you bunches" as a way of saying even more. And I think of that's kind of what Jesus says in this text. I love you bunches. I love you so much. Here, watch what I will do for you. And he goes to a cross to say, here's what it looks like to sacrifice, to give for someone that you love. And it's meant to bring you a sense of joy. Yes, we look at the cross and Jesus was there, and it was a painful, agonizing thing. It's this weird connection between a love that is a love of choice and sacrifice, and a sense of joy, a sense of finding joy, of living in that joy, of knowing that it's a gift given to us. It's interesting, once again, Jesus is using this idea of fruit that Paul uses. Go and produce lasting fruit. And I remind you that you can't make fruit. You can't just make it on your own. I'd use this example. I had this apple I'd found in the parking lot on the way into worship this last weekend. And I was holding that apple and just being mindful, I can't make that thing. And it was so funny. One just showed up at the parking lot because it was just a good reminder that there are certain things in life we can't just produce, we can't just make. And the idea of producing fruit is really inviting God to come in and change us and shape us so that our lives will kind of exhibit this fruit that God longs for us, and that we don't try to just make it on our own, try to do it, but instead we invite Christ to come in and to get and the Holy Spirit to give us this fruit, to give us this joy. So here's the thing. I realize that some of us are in places in life. Sometimes you maybe remember a moment in life where you're like, I don't have it in me to experience joy or to love in the way I'd like to. I'm tired, I'm worn out, or to have a sense of, we talked about peace, a sense of wholeness, a sense of being healed. I don't have it in me. That's okay. As a person of faith, we are honest. We say to God, I don't have this in me right now, God. I need this from you. And so I invited you this last week to just say a simple prayer. Whenever you get up in the morning, or a prayer when you're struggling or wrestling with something, it's a simple prayer. Come, Holy Spirit. Come, Holy Spirit. Come, Holy Spirit. Come, Holy Spirit. Bring me that sense of joy that will carry me, that carried Christ in those last few days, that carried the Apostle Paul as he brought this message. As those are first followers of Jesus, that I pray will carry the community today that gathers to celebrate Richard's life, a joy we're going to remember and have and be joyful about who he was, about what he shared, what he gave. And even though he was, younger than we would like when he died, I mean, Richard had lots of physical challenges, and you never knew how long he had, but man, everything he came to VBS, he came and he brought a sense of joy with him. And I'm going to remember that today. I hope you'll remember that as well. It's a gift that is given to us, and sometimes it comes to us from others, through others. They literally are producing that fruit of joy, and sometimes it's one we just have to invite the Holy Spirit to come in and to bring that to us. So I want to end today with Psalm 126. Psalm 126 is a powerful song of joy, a psalm of joy, and it's basically this story about the Israelites have been, this is about 600 years before the time of Jesus. They've been taken off to be slaves in Babylon, and now they're finally getting to return. And even though they're returning from slavery, even though they've been in slavery, even though they've experienced these horrible things, they come back with a sense of joy. And I want to invite you once again this weekend. We gather for worship. We're going to have communion together. Last weekend, we had really joyful experiences of baptizing a number of our young people who were confirmed, but also some college students. It was really just a great week and weekend of joy. And this weekend, we're come to communion, and communion is meant to be, we think of it as somber, but it's actually meant to be a meal of joy. Here is this gift that comes to us from Christ. A gift of forgiveness, of mercy, of grace, a gift of joy. And so that's this weekend. So I hope you'll join us either in person or online for that. Tonight we have a dinner with the pastors. It's at 6 o'clock, and drinks with the pastor, excuse me. And so we'd love to just spend some time with you if you're new or not ever joined us. And by the way, we have that opportunity for you today to be a part of Richard's service at 1 o'clock. It's going to be live streamed on our website as well as here in person. But as we think about all those things, I just want to leave you with this psalm of joy, kind of a prayer as we leave today with this Psalm 126. When the Lord brought back his exiles to Jerusalem, it was like a dream.